Joseph. There we go. Good evening, everybody. Come on, it's Friday night, for God's sake. There we go. I figured I'd save you all the hassle. I was going to take the gratuitous pedal board shot now, and then we'll just email it to all of you later. Does that work? Welcome. I made it dark and spooky just to start here, but we'll bring the lights up in a minute since this first part of the show is kind of more Q&A and talking and stuff like that. Welcome everybody out. This is going to be the height of guitar geekery, so for all of these spouses and significant others, I'd like to apologize on behalf of the store. He better be taking you someplace nice tomorrow, that's all I got to say. Because I know my wife would be like, all right, you're definitely taking me to dinner after this. So, I actually met my wife at a Steve Vai show of all places, so she's a power woman. Welcome out. We're super excited to have you guys here. We're super excited to bring this one guy here all the way from the UK to come and hang out with you guys and talk about guitar. We're also super fortunate as always that we've got our hometown hero here to welcome you and track some new record. After you have checked in on your social media platform of choice, please do take a moment and click that little slider on the side so that when they're talking about detailed settings on his pedal, you don't miss like what milliseconds it is, or is that cable coming from here? And you're like, hey, what value of pots do you have in here? Tonight, that's all allowed. Because it's the height of geekery tonight. We are super excited, as always, to have our super great friend, Andy Timmons, in the house tonight. As we were setting up today, I decided that we're going to name this is Tonehenge over here. And I think the sweet spot is probably somewhere right around here between those two. It's going to be freaking glorious. I'm apologizing to you guys like right here though. Tomorrow you're going to be like, what? What did you, what? It's glorious, that's what it is. It's real tube amps running through real speaker cabinets. Imagine that. Well, we're also super excited to start the show off tonight. This is a guy that we've literally been talking about doing this for multiple years, and then that stupid thing COVID got in the way, and then schedules and NAMM and all that kind of stuff. And every year I see him, if I see him at NAMM or something like that, it's like, dude, you have got to come to the store, you got to book an extra time. And fortunately for us, he's got a thing for America, and he's over here visiting and doing some fun, top secret stuff. So we're super excited to bring him here all the way from that pedal show in the UK. The one and only Daniel Steinhardt.
First of all, thank you all so much for coming out. This is wild. Lots of people have asked me where Mick is. I'm going to give you all his personal phone number so you can call him and ask him. Yeah, so what I thought we would do, for about half an hour or so, I'm going to interview one of my favourite people. So let's start off how we need to go on. Welcome to That Pedal Show Live, Dan here.
Mick, no, sorry, Andy here.
There we go.
I think we're missing a little, can we just get a little bit of both of our mics and the monitors, just so I don't feel so far away. There we go.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brian, for the invite. It's wonderful. Yes, I've had an amazing time. My wife and I flew into Oklahoma. We spent a couple of days with the genius Robert Keeley, who sat in the back.
He walked in and the intelligence and the vibe went up double. This is what it is. It's just what it is. when I found out you were coming to town and we were going to be hanging with Robert, this is going to be my favorite people in one room. It was almost too much.
It was.
Too much. I've had such a great week.
Really amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you to Dallas up the top, who's going to be helping me out with my cues. I've actually done a little bit of probably the most prepared I've ever been, because Mick does all the clever stuff. I'll just sit there. So what I want to do is just take you guys through That Pedal Show journey and Andy's journey along with it, and we'll get into some questions about how he does what he does, and we'll look at his rig. But it's been a really interesting journey, and you know, our friendship is really, really beautiful. We'll have a chat about that thing that happened on the show,
my song doesn't have a title. It's just known as the song that made Dan cry.
So, Dallas, if we could get that first, there we go. Right, so this picture, 2014. Now,
Where was that?
this is in Germany. This is the first day we met.
Was that in Germany?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, and the Guitar Sanctuary is actually involved in
That's
this
right,
story.
that's right.
Right, so, now, I want to make, I'm pretty sure this is how it went. I got an email from someone, now I don't know if it was Brian or someone involved with the Guitar Sanctuary, who said, we just released our switcher, the G2, where you plug all your effects pedals in, you press one button, it turns some off and turns some on. It's, you know, it was great. It's something we've been working on for, you know, now 20 years. But anyway, I got an email saying, look, I'm friends with Andy Timmons and I want to buy 2 of these and I want to give one to Andy. Now, I've been a massive Andy Timmons fan for ages.
I knew I had one. Don't let him go.
So, the crazy thing is, I sent off 2 of these units that I bought and paid for, and off they went. And I was like, oh, I just really hope he likes it. I really hope he likes it. Then, a couple of months went by, and I hadn't heard anything. And I was like, day after day, I was like, a little more heartbroken.
Oh.
And then I thought, okay, I have to know if he likes it. I'm going to reach out. So I emailed Andy. I said, mate, hey, it's Dan here from TheGigRig. And this is before Pedal Show, right? It's Dan here from TheGigRig. I just need to know, did you like the G2 that we sent out to you? And I got an email back straight away. Never heard of you.
Okay, so at this point I need to out my good buddy George Fuller, who is the mayor of McKinney, and the reason I'm in McKinney, because of our lifelong friendship, he had a penchant occasionally, if he really wanted something, he might use my name. So I was caught unawares, like, Gio, what are you doing? Anyway, that's the true story. So it was definitely George you got the email.
All right. Thanks, George.
Yeah, nicely done.
Andy says, but this looks really interesting. And I'm going on tour with Protocol 2 soon, which is the band that Andy has had with Simon Phillips. And like, astonishing prog rock thing. And he says, this looks really interesting. I'd love to try one out. And I'm like, I'm in. So sent one over to Andy. This is great. And saw a few clips of Andy using it. It's blowing my mind. And then I get an email saying one of the techs has, with big feet, stood on one of the cables going into the unit and snapped it in half.
I'm in Germany on tour, and now my pedal board is dead. Because the power section got knocked out.
So let me ask you, if Andy Timmons gives you a call and says my pedal board is dead, who here would jump on a flight to Germany and go and sort him out? Right? There you go.
Daniel Steinhardt would, because that's exactly what happened.
But I'm not unique in that, right? And pretty much anyone here would do it. So I jump on a plane, go and sort him out, and that is the first day that we met in March 2014.
I haven't seen that picture. That's freaking awesome.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. I remember being very chilly.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So it was, 2 minutes into the conversation, and I'm like, I love this guy. He is just wonderful. So I've known Andy then since March 2014, and it was, if we go to the next photo, I started this YouTube channel with Mick Taylor called That Total Show, and Andy was our very first ever guest. Andy came on, we had no subscribers, and I was like, mate, I know you're playing in London, this is at the borderline in London. So, would you mind coming on the show? And he's without hesitation, absolutely. So, now, I just want to point something out about this photo. And I'm going to get Andy to play something in a minute. Yes, on the show, Andy played something, and I, well done, started to cry. But I just want to say, shortly after this photo was taken, Mick says, Andy, can you please play She's Leaving Home, that Beatles tune? So Andy starts playing it, and Mick's behind the camera. And then I look up, and Mick has tears running down his face. So Mick was first. Mick was first. So would you mind just playing a little bit of that?
I'll try. I will never live up to that.
Can
you do me a huge favor?
Yeah.
Can you turn the snares off?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. There you go.
Okay.
Little things,
So,
Catchy feet.
and he plays that at, volume, pattern changing. And what's really interesting, how many of you have seen Andy play before?
You came back, that's pretty good. He's still talking to me.
What is astonishing about being in a room when Andy's doing this thing? He knows how to use dynamics, he knows how to use volume. And when he plays, you get to a point where you're no longer listening, you're experiencing, you're in the moment with Andy. And it's the most extraordinary thing. I do find that when you play it, it's like, it's just... But what happened on the show when Andy made me cry? We just had a tour, which I'll get to in a bit, but we were all exhausted. We had 2 hours before we had to get you back to London. So let's just film something really quickly. So we are just knackered. And then Andy pulls that out of the bag, and I just went. But if you look at Mick when that's happening, he is going just behind me. So,
Well,
anyway.
the thing that maybe isn't captured It's recorded very well. But I'm very pleased with the way the recording came out. But in that room, we were talking just before we went live on the camera. So we really haven't spent any time tone questing together. It's like, well, what can we try? And you said, well, try the speaker cabinet. And Mick has this lovely old Mesa Boogie from the 80s.
Yeah.
It's a 212 cabinet, but it's got the EVM speakers in it. 100-watt speakers, heavy as heck. Let's try those. And it just made this really lovely, bold for that clean tone.
Done.
So I just started playing this little piece. And the sound in that room,
I'm really jet lagged, dude.
is pretty good right now. So I get this far. We were talking about my Keeley Halo and experiencing the beauty. I get that far, I'm gonna stop, and I look over at Dan. I guess I better keep going. I really was only about to play half of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. So, I want to get into this a little bit.
Yes.
When you play your chord solo stuff, who here's into jazz, right? Okay, so a lot of jazz guitar players will know guitar players who play chord solos, right? They have the chord underneath and they'll play the melody on top. But it's very rare that you'll find a guitar player who can do that with any amount of distortion. The problem being, you get this thing called it's a harmonic distortion when you have the tones from two notes when they mix. Everyone know a power chord, right? Right. When you play those two notes together, they can mix, and all the integers of the harmonic series come together and they all fit. But if you play like, just play me
I'm gonna turn down my amp a little bit.
really? Dude, it sounds amazing.
Somebody asked me not to turn down. Thank you, God. How chord is it?
So, just play a power chord for us. We're going to play Poison then. Now, if you can play the same chord, but with a major third in it. Now, if I played that, it would sound like absolute garbage. I don't know how you managed to make it work, but
Well, I can put a third on top here.
right. So normally, if a normal human plays that, it just sounds like trash. But Andy's worked out a way to do these chord solo type tunes with the melodies and the chords in there, and they just sound amazing. But because Andy has developed his sound and his tone around this, so Andy can go out with a three-piece, and it sounds like an orchestra, and it's really amazing. I want to know how you got to that place, because it's an amazing thing to be able to do, and it's quite unique to you.
Maybe so. You mentioned the jazz thing, so it does kind of start there because early on, I was self-taught from the age of 5. At 16, I started taking lessons, and my teacher, Ron Pritchett in Indiana, was a big Barney Kessel and Joe Pass guy. So he turned me on to jazz, and then I eventually ended up studying classical guitar for a while, and it all became about getting that top voice to speak. But I did learn, kind of the chord melody. I don't have quite the jazz tone here. That's kind of West meets Barney,
levels.
Well, okay, so, but what he's talking about, if I add distortion to that, it can get very messy, especially with, you know. Of course, it's all working now for some reason. But, you know, it gets messy.
Yeah.
It gets messy, so part of the equation and how I started to develop the solo guitar thing, the way that I currently do it is because of Steve Vai.
Oh.
Because I did a record for him called That Was Then, This Is Now, which is kind of the best of your ecstasy 1 and 2. And there were 4 new songs on there, and one of them was a song called Falling Down, which was just like that. Nobody knows the songs. So it just turned out, for whatever reason, that song we didn't do any overdubs.
Right.
It was just one guitar, bass, and drums. And as we were getting ready to make Resolution, after that record came out, he said, "I love that one song where you really hear the fingers on the frets." And we had done the basic tracks for the record that became Resolution, if you're familiar with that record. And we had done the basic tracks. I played live with Mitch Marine and Mike Dane like we always do. I improvised some live solos, but I think I'm going to go back and play the rhythm guitars and build it up like a normal instrumental guitar record would be. But when I heard the playbacks, and I lived with it for quite a while, I was like, nothing was inspiring about it. I was so bored with the way that I'd been doing things. And the genre in general, instrumental music, it had been so done. But it was that thought of what Steve Vai had said to me. And it's incredible what one single thought or one single word from somebody can change your whole approach to, sometimes in life.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You know? And that thing he said about, I love when it's just one guitar. And so I thought, what if I could do a whole record of just the one guitar? So what I had written, that might have had chords in mind for me to play, on top of chords, I had to okay, now I need to learn, how am I going to voice that? How am I going to represent this melody? And one of the first things was, but then I had to approach the rest of the record. How can I do this? And some of it's very high gain. So because of what Daniel was talking about, I had to really thin out, voices and had to pick and choose. But most of what I do melodically tends to be based on the third of whatever chord is happening.
Right.
So there's a lot of instances where you don't need anything but the bass and my single notes. Because somewhere in that bar, I'm going to reference that third. It's just the way I hear music.
Sure.
And
does everyone know what Andy means by that? Yeah, when you're building chords up, chords happen in intervals of thirds, and the third tells you whether it's a major or a minor chord. So Andy will automatically go to that really strong note in the chord. And if the bass player is playing the root, Andy can just play the third, and it just sounds big.
A great example is Electric Gypsy. So it's D major to A major, B minor to G. So the melody is F sharp is the third, right? A, there's C sharp. D over the B. Licked. So if you So now check this out. I'm going to improvise something really quick and see if you hear the chords going on behind what I'm playing. I'm just going to play single notes. It's a game. So as each chord, I love cheers for lessons. But no, but it's such a great for any player. I mean, it's such a great exercise to, you know, as guitar players, we tend to learn in scale. And it's great to know where the notes are, but I'm more concerned with as each chord goes by, there's that third, you know, just having kind of a pathway, and that's how I write music. I'm not like, oh, third, but it's also just how I naturally hear things.
Sure. Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful. Okay, I'm on to like the second slide So Andy and the band are going to hit the stage at about 9 o'clock. I want to have enough time for questions, but there are some slides I want to get through, so I'm going to just take my time.
You guys are cool, right? Yeah. Nobody's gonna rush.
Is everyone having fun? Is this all right?
I think you've got the right demographic, so let's go till 9:15, 9:30.
Okay. Thank you guys.
We just want one more. Well, they can see me all the time. We can't see Dan all the time. But I'm excited I'm very excited to play the new recovery music for you guys because I've got a really great band tonight to back me up. So there's going to be some actual loud music. So yeah,
beautiful. Okay, so Andy and I hit it off, and Andy would come over to the UK on occasion. We'd just take every opportunity we possibly could to hang out.
The NAMM shows.
The NAMM shows, man. They're the legendary breakfast
with Devin
Townsend.
I mean, I laugh harder with this guy than anybody else on the planet. But then with Devin Townsend, there was another resonance there that was insane. His mind is crazy in a beautiful way, and
it's amazing.
You can't even tell stories. But
so I was trying to find an excuse to bring Andy to the UK, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could have a that pedal show band and fly Andy over and do some gigs. So if we go to the next one, please. There we go. So we had booked a whole bunch of gigs, and
look at that date. Look at that date. Damn you, April 2020.
So when we were so excited, and if you look at where we're going to play, Liverpool, Birmingham, Whitney, and London. Liverpool was going to be the Cavern Club. So anyway,
that's the appropriate reaction. That was my soul.
So
I've never been to Liverpool.
No, never been to Liverpool.
Yeah.
And we obviously talked about that a lot. Dallas, next slide, please. So we finally, in 2022, we got Andy over to do a bunch of gigs, but we couldn't do the Cavern Club because they were booked up for ages. But Andy came over, that pedal show band. It was freaking awesome. We had so much fun. And the next slide, please. So 3 guitars on stage.
It was pretty great.
The
boys are back in town.
The boys are back in town. Each of us had 2 amplifiers. We had 6 amps on stage, just cranked. And
there's a lot of play loud shirts out there.
It was heavenly, right? Absolutely heavenly. So a couple of years went by, and we'd go to NAMM whenever we could. We'd hook up, and I got a phone call from Andy saying that a friend of his has worked out a way to go to Abbey Road for the day and do some recording, and if I would be up for coming over and lending a hand. Next one, please, Alice. So in 2024, Andy Timmons in Studio 2, that's my 1961 AC30 behind me, spent the day recording at Abbey Road. And this allowed me to get my favourite picture in the world. Next one, Dallas, please.
Oh my God.
Andy and me, Studio 2, Abbey Road.
That's a good thing, right? That's a good thing.
Amazing. So, I'm sure all of you know, but Andy knows more about the Beatles than anyone I've ever met.
I thought so until the guys that I went with.
Right. Oh yeah, they were scary.
They were knowledgeable on another level, but I'm a fairly big geek.
Yeah. And what we were doing there we were both plugged into the same amplifier, and that's happened on one of the Beatles shows. Right?
Nowhere Man, the very famous. But that's John and George with matching Sonic Blue Stratocasters plugged into the same AC30 and treble added at the console. It's the brightest guitar tone ever, but it's pleasant.
Yeah. So when Andy booked the room, and I don't know how common knowledge this is, but all the gear that the Beatles used, you can use. So we had like the Fairchilds and it was just crazy. And what was fascinating, Andy also played drums. Andy does a great Ringo, right? Really great Ringo. But when you heard it in the monitors, and they used the same mics that they used on Ringo's kits, the same compressors, we were stood in the control room and hearing it back. It's like, that's how they did it. There's a sound of that room and those mics, and it was just.
I did the snare drum once, there it is. Of course, I asked for some Ludwig drums, and but no, the engineer was in touch with me via email before the session, and I'd gotten this. Not me, I'm not the only one to have it, but there was a John Lennon demo for a song called "I'm in Love" that he wrote. The Beatles didn't record it. He gave it to another Brian Epstein managed group called The Foremost. They did a crap job. Sorry, Foremost. I thought it was a song I always thought could be Beatled up a bit. So he said, "What kind of sounds are you going for?" I said, "Well, just think Beatles 1964." And Dan, what he mentioned was they had all the same mics. So, and that's why Dan was really gracious, because even though it was 64, I wanted that Nowhere Man guitar tone. So I brought my 65 Strat. He brought his AC30. So if you go on YouTube and type in Andy Timmons "I'm in Love," you'll hear my version of me playing all the instruments of the John Lennon song.
It's amazing.
It turned out pretty good.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Next picture, please, Dallas. So this is Andy and I next to the stairwell, in exactly the spot where Paul recorded Blackbird. And
I still have the same chairs, the old red leather covered chair. So we could have been sitting in the chair that he recorded yesterday.
It's a magical place. It really is.
It's not cheap, but you can book that room. So
yeah.
So the two guys, Craig Hopkins, who's a local guy, very famous for his knowledge of Stevie Ray Vaughan. He's written those books called Day After Day, Night After Night, and Craig, Dennis Poggenberg, dear friends of mine. That was the beginning of a week-long sightseeing trip. So, but Craig has connections. And, we had dinner with Mark Lewison, if you know who that is, if you're a Beatle geek. Two of the quarrymen he got in touch with. He's a fearless guy. And then, okay.
Well, no Beatles epic journey would be complete without. Next slide, please, Dallas. We booked the Cabin Club. We did. So, next slide, please, Dallas. So, that teleshow band, we sold out the Cabin Club, and we just had, it was the most magical night.
And we're going to do one of those songs tonight.
We are.
But on a level that we've never done before. So there will be a Beatles song at the end of the night. I'm not going to give it away, but that's something that'll be a very special moment.
Next slide, just Dallas. So, Andy and I, out front of Strawberry Fields, I wanted to ask you about Strawberry Fields and about the album Sgt. Pepper. Now, there are moments you hear people with great ambition do these things, and sometimes they pull it off. But to do Sgt. Pepper as a three-piece,
no overdubs. So
right? But I don't know if you know this. Andy did the whole thing from memory. He knows that album so well that he did the whole thing from memory. That is wild.
Yeah, that's kind of great.
So what was that process? I mean, did you just think one day, I'm going to do Sgt. Pepper?
Well, my band was, I had one arrangement of Beatles stuff, a Strawberry Field. promoter, Ricardo Capelli, recognized that this song was going over very well.
Right.
And so he said to me, like, this again, this one single, statement from somebody can just change things. But he says, next time you come back, you should do a whole night of Beatles. I'm like, oh man, there's no way. I could never do that, right? But it got the wheels turning, and I was like, what else could I do? But the next song that really kind of fell on my fingers was. There's an example of I didn't need anything else but the root and the melody. Some open strings. Not tonight, Helen.
So I wanted to ask you, this is a question that as guitar players we all face, and it's a big question, talking about tone. When I was at NAMM this year, the guys from Tom Am were walking around with a microphone going, who has the best tone? And the answer was really interesting. So many people went, tone's such a subjective thing, unless you're Andy Timmons. But it's interesting that everyone recognizes that what you do, your sound is so unique, but everyone recognizes that it has incredible tone. What do you define tone as? What's it mean, and how do you start getting to that place?
It's a lifelong process. And it's the same as how we evolve as players and songwriters. I call it the auralect. Mm-hmm. I was teaching a course about melody for True Fire, and I called it melodic muse. And I coined a phrase called auralect because I believe there's kind of a library that collects, in our mind of all our favorite melodies and music. But tone is the same thing. We've all got our favorite recordings, and if your hero is Stevie Ray or Eric Johnson or
Andy Timmons.
we have. He's at the kids' table, trust me. Or West Montgomery. I mean, there's so there's always kind of if you're writing a song or you're improvising a solo, you're trying to rise to the level of what you've been moved by and what it has inspired you, and you're coming at it in your own way. And it's the same with tone. In order to get any of these sounds, I have to have an idea of what I want in the first place. So it's a matter of just trying to reach. Again, especially with Resolution, like Dane, who helped me produce and record those tracks, we decided to really take the time, and Eric had really set the bar, because Eric Johnson had done so much work, kind of infamously, spending maybe too much time, but really taking the time to try every possible thing and combination to figure out what was the best sonic, path for integrity. And so it just sent me further down the path. I always wanted a good sound, but earlier on in my career it was more about the performance.
Right.
That's how I ended up with several tracks with a Zoom on my first solo record here. I was just not proud of those tones. The performance was okay, but the further I went along, the more important, the more time that I spent on the tone. You know what I mean? So did I answer your question?
You absolutely did, and I just think what's important, and I hope everyone takes away from this, Andy will not compromise. I mean, it's the levels that Andy goes to make sure that when he's playing, he feels connected. He wants you all to feel something, and it's amazing. And I hope a lot of people start to do the same thing, you know, because it's quite unique, but it's really beautiful. Listen, I'm going to do 2 more quick things. I was going to do a whole thing about Andy's pedal board, but we've done it on that pedal show before. I want to quickly talk about the halo, Robert Healy being here.
Yeah. Talk about a kindred spirit. Well, and again, this is the thing that how Dan and I's, lines intertwining relationship. He's been there for so many special parts of my life in the last however many years. 20. Is it 20?
It's 11 actually, yeah. But I know, it does feel like I've known
Abe Hawk knows I have trouble with time. Anyway, my manager from Danger is here. Abe Hawk, ladies and gentlemen. He's got some stories. Okay, but I want to get back to Robert Keeley really quick because we were at the NAMM show and I've been using tape echo. I've been using a deluxe memory man from Electro Harmonics, and I used the timeline from Strymon. I always called it 90% of what I wanted from the memory man. But I go to Dan and say, look, I've got this idea. I just want a single pedal. I use one sound. Strymon's great. It does 1,000 things. I need one sound. Who is the person that I could go to achieve that? He goes, Robert Keeley. And the great thing was, we're at the NAMM show. Everybody's there. So he walks me over. Hey, Andy, this is Robert Keeley. Hey, Robert. Hey, nice to meet you. We've got this idea. We talked about it. He goes, that sounds like a great idea. And what year was that? Was that 2019?
I think it was.
Okay.
It was the day that the DNM drive was launched.
Oh, wow.
At NAMM.
So we had this idea. He says, well, we're developing an Echo right now. We've got a new chip and blah, blah. So we can't do it right now, but we'll let you know. But once we finally got in a room together, it took about 1.5 years. Now think about that. Luckily, Robert's just up the road in Oklahoma City, and I'm being in McKinney. We're 3 hours apart. The first day we got together, because we all kind of thought maybe this is going to be a simple thing. We listen, we go, we got something to do. Mm-hmm. But that was the thing. From that moment, Robert and his team, Aaron Pierce, Aaron Tackett, I would drive up there a handful of times, they would drive here. So every decision that was made and every tweet, we were in the room together. Because you can't really verbalize sound and feeling. The spoken word the language is limited. But when you're in a room together, you feel something and you're moved by something. So, but we didn't compromise because we knew we had to beat what I was using. And not only did we meet, but we far exceeded. And it's a tribute to Robert and his team. It wasn't about, eventually we have a product, okay. But it was a completely selfish thing. This is something I wanted.
Well, I think knowing your level, because when we talk about pedal boards and stuff, there's been several iterations of the board. And we worked really hard to make sure that it got to the level. And knowing loads of pedal guys, Robert came to mind straight away because I knew he wouldn't quit. Yeah. And that's rare. So thank you, buddy. It's an amazing.
I don't know many companies that would take that time because it wasn't
exactly
about, it's a bottom line. Hey, the clock's ticking. It was like, this has to be great.
Yep.
And that's why Robert and his company Keeley, their reputation is where it is because of that ethos. With his brand, you're going to get something amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Ring my friend, I said you'd call. I call him Dr. Foxy Rabbit.
Okay,
Yes.
2 last questions. Right.
We got it now.
Wait, well, yeah, we'll get some questions in from the beautiful people out there. I look in the audience and I see a lot of people of a similar age, right?
Guilty. My demo, babe. What do you mean by that?
How do you stay so good? How do your facility is as good as the day I met you. And there's not many players that you can say that of. Or, Jeff Beck, I remember, unfortunately I never got to see him, but as all the videos and stuff, even right up to the end, he was on fire. What's your secret?
Well, I just have to do it. It's as simple as that. And I went through a period in my life where I wasn't really practicing like when I was a kid.
Right.
I'll try to condense the story, but it's the same thing I've been saying all night. Sometimes it's just a thought. So there was a time about 15, maybe 10 or 15 years ago where Pat Metheny was going to do one of these guitar camps. I've done a bunch of them. I've been very fortunate to do some really great camps with amazing players. But Pat Metheny was going to do one. I thought, oh my God, to have a chance to not only meet, I've met him a couple times, just quick fan, whatever, but to spend time and to study with who is one of my just ultimate heroes. But he's not impressed really with anyone ever. So I'm like immediately excited and nervous and scared. So I thought, in my jazz chops, which I at one point in my college years where I was playing a lot of jazz, I was okay at it, right? And so I thought, well, I'm going to go do this thing. And I knew the guy putting it on. It was expensive, but hey, maybe I could borrow it. I'll do some master classes for you. Yeah, just you'll come. Don't worry about it. Just come. So I started working on my jazz again, which I hadn't done. And even though I'm a rock player, my playing is massively informed by what I learned from Charlie Parker, his dynamic, his phrasing, negotiating, navigating chord changes, not just burning in a key. So I started playing. I got my friend Nick Knurk, jazz buddy, and we got together several times a week to play. Because when I was in school in Miami, I was gigging 6 nights a week. I was in music school all day, and if I had a spare moment, what are you doing? Let's go play. Let's play Autumn Leaves for an hour. So Nick and I started doing that, and it was painful because I was hearing myself suck, where at one point I had been pretty good at it.
Yeah.
But this went on, and there was months before the camp, so I do this every day. I'm playing, I've got the iReal Book app, and I'm playing standards every morning. After a couple months, I'm like, I'm starting to feel that improvement. It's like, well, you have to put some wind in your sails. Keeps going. Well, the camp didn't happen because the guy went bankrupt. So I've maintained that same ethos and regimen. But what was also happening was that I was realizing I was becoming a happier person because I was honoring my gift in a way that I hadn't in a lot of years. I was always playing, I had gigs, I was writing, but when I got back to being the student, and in particular studying jazz and what that does for my ear and for my fingers, this is my happy place. And to this day, my happiest part of the day, wife excluded, happiest part of the day is I get my coffee in the morning, I sit in my office for an hour, and no matter what, I'm going to play. Right now, I'm learning an Oscar Peterson lick every day, just something. So it's my Oscar Peterson lick of today is, he does lots of double. We do this thing, but I'm in C. He's holding the 13th. So the camp never happened. The thought of sitting in front of Pat Metheny changed my life.
Fantastic.
It's incredible. And it's kind of funny because the reason I went to University of Miami was that Pat Metheny had been there, the Dregs had formed there. So again, I've been, Pat, I love you, Pat. So we may never get to hang, but again, just take that little nugget of.
I don't think we can really do any better than that. That was, honestly, man, and I can just say, knowing you has changed my life, and it's been such an inspirational friendship, and we'll be forever grateful for it. So
I love you, Daniel.
Thank you. I love you too. Okay, so
There's a lot of love in this room.
okay, let's get some questions then. If anyone has any questions for
I think Brian had a microphone, but just...
My question would be, relating to tone, if you change two different amps, do you find comfort or a tone that you like in every different tube amp that you use?
So he's asking, if I find different sounds from different tube amps, if you swap out any component, but mainly the guitar or the amp, it will definitely make you play differently. Like I brought a bunch of different guitars because each one of them has their own voice, and I love what that does. But now I'll go through great lengths to have the amps that I want. Like I just did 3 weeks in Southeast Asia, and sometimes I can have my Lone Stars. There's an amp that Mesa no longer makes, so they're kind of becoming unicorns. But most cities I had, occasionally I'd have some Marshalls and I'd have to adapt. Sometimes it worked out great and was even kind of cool. Like I had some, I don't know what the recent Marshall amp I had was, but I used some Marshall stuff, it sounded really good. Another city, I plugged in the Marshall, it was complete crap. And luckily a store actually had a couple of 2-rock amps, which in Changchun, China.
Wow.
But this shop also had, I've never seen so many AT100s, AT10s, AT300s. This guy had so many of my guitars, had every pedal. He had a pedal board with it. I signed his G2 pedal.
No.
Yeah, he had every, so we played 4 cities in China. We played Guangzhou, Shanghai, Beijing, which are all very westernized. You know, and I've been to China a lot in my career. They've become more and more westernized. Chengchun is in very northeast China, and you can just feel the communist vibe. It was incredible, the difference of the feel and the people. It was just a more repressed feeling. But every night on the gig, we get in the gig, and it feels like this. It's people are there. It's like going to a church. You're in a room full of people that believe and love the same thing. And I would say every night, it should be this easy. A room full of people, very different cultures, belief systems, whatever. But we can be as one, and we're just the same. We're just the same. We're looking for that feeling. We're looking for that sense of unity. And to feel that in places like that is deeply emotional and cool, you know, so I feel very blessed. And I did a master class that same day. This is a humble brag. So I did a master class and I arranged for, 10 different, students to come up and play with me. Let's do this. Every one of them played electric gypsy. Every one of them. Like, I wrote some other songs, and they didn't have to play any of my songs, but they were just so happy that, anyway.
Amazing.
It was pretty amazing.
Anyone else?
Down here.
Over there, yes sir.
I also play, I don't like to call them jazz chords, but there's a lot of extensions. And anytime I try and boost the sound, it does kind of become that thing, it's messy. And I try and balance it with touch, but it usually kind of comes down to what you said. It's how you give the roots. And probably the third, that was really what your approach was to, trying to accentuate another.
That's exactly it. You try to come up with any arrangement of any tune. Start with the root, start with the melody, and then work out what you can add. I was always looking for ways, like in that Whiskey in the Sky, when I went, I could get away. I had some strings ringing, but that's with not as much gain too, as I'm sorry. Well, it can be beautiful, But so I've also learned. Steve Vai gave me the most incredible compliment. I saw he was on the Beat tour recently. In fact, I was with Robert Keeley. We went out to see Adrian and Steve Vai, and Steve. And I've known Steve since 1990. Well, we met in '88, but we've known each other a bunch from my days. I walk in, he just beams. He's such a sweet soul. He says, "Man, you're really in tune."
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, it was beautiful, man. He goes like, "Man, I'm not into it." But for me, and I know what Steve was talking about as well. He was very in tune that night. I will say he sounded freaking beautiful. But it's kind of rare for a rock guitar player to really have intonation together. Eric Johnson's one of them. Joe Satriani's one of them.
Yeah.
Really in tune, but it's hard, man. It's an imperfect instrument, touches everything, but awareness and, you know, I'm name dropping like heck tonight, but Tommy Emmanuel. Probably the greatest musician I've ever witnessed, and we've become very good friends. And he invited me one of the last times he played in Dallas at the Majestic. You know, he said, invited me down for sound check. You know, I get there and he's on stage and he goes, "Come here, Mike, stand on here. And I go out and it's just the greatest acoustic guitar tone ever. But he's got like his little amp and these monitors he has, and it's just amazing. And he's playing, and it's so beautiful. I start yelling at him, "You've got auto-tune in your fingers," you know? It's like, "Oh, you've got it too, mate." And I knew what he meant, because instinctively, the better your ear gets. When I go up here to Granny, I'm pulling that third of that chord. I'm pulling it slightly sharp. It sounds okay. Subtle things that your fingers kind of start to do naturally to try to get things as in tune as possible. So that's happening in real time the entire time I'm navigating.
It's a real skill to learn, to actually listen to yourself while you're playing. Gilmore is a master of it, and he can tell on a dime if something isn't. Yeah, like I don't know if anyone. I saw Gilmore at the Albert Hall recently, a couple of months ago, and he's still. You know, it's 78 or something, it's all there. But it's that thing, it's listening and adjusting. A quick story for you. Guthrie Govan. Right? Now I've done a couple of reads for Guthrie over the years. And he's an amazing guy. He is playing guitar for the composer Hans Zimmer. So, Guthrie gets a couple of solos a night, and they're wild. Guthrie's guitar is set up so the tremolo is floating. Everyone knows what that means? So when you pull the tremolo, it goes up and down, so it's floating. In the middle of the solo, the string breaks. What happens to the tremolo? Right, everything's pitched sharp. Without dropping a note, Guthrie reaches into his back pocket, pulls out a slide, finishes the rest of the solo on the slide, and you have to watch it to pick the point where the string breaks, the slide comes out, and you wouldn't know, and he knew to go down just behind the fret.
What a move.
I mean, yeah,
that's pro, man.
Okay, we've got time for maybe 1-2 more quick questions before. Yes, sir.
I think I'm hearing delay into reverb. Do you ever do parallel, and what? Talk about
That's
that.
a great question. All right, well, I don't know how much we can talk about this, but honestly, all you're hearing is my halo. And the beauty of that is that that's what we spent a year and a half on. Because it turns in, basically, that's actually two delays in the way they're feathering into each other. That's what the time was spent on. There may be, Robert? Yes, no? Do I talk about it? Yeah, okay, so there is an actual reverb in development that you're going to hear tonight, based on the halo. So it's a reverb that's never been done in quite this way before. And there will be a version eventually available, thanks to Daniel Steinhardt's brilliance, that will offer parallel. You'll be able to plug any other delay into this unit and be able to pick your series, your parallel. I've said too much. Okay, you got to all sign a NDA, sorry. You got to sign my DNA, baby. Thanks, 23andMe. Anyway,
Yeah.
but that great question. So we just heard for the first time. I had never had the opportunity to do that. We got to do that up in Oklahoma a couple days ago, and it's pretty glorious. It's different. I like both series and parallel. So
Yeah.
great question.
Okay, yes, sir, last one.
House is burning, like kids and God are out. You got to
Thank you for saying that.
on the spot. Maybe we have to grab one piece of kit that either sentimentally wise or like, just, I could not live without this thing that you had to grab on the way out. What would it be?
Well, I got to start by saying Michael Landau just did that. You know, Michael Landau's house just burned down. He grabbed 4 guitars and 2 dumbbells. Everything else went. So it's a fun question, but kind of serious at the same time. What would you choose?
I'm going to take red.
You take red. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a custom shop Strat, and I've got, a few really beautiful vintage pieces that I love, but red is just, I can do everything on that guitar, and it's just got 20 years of, it's got a couple of thousand gigs in that guitar. It's really great.
Well, you're looking at it. I've had this guitar for 31 years.
Wow.
It was built February. Yeah. They love you. It was built February 14th, 1994. It just got refretted for the 9th time. For the first time by Daniel Kirkland, who's the staff luthier here. It's the best it's ever played. But again, half my life I've played this guitar. I love them all. I mean, every guitar is so inspiring, and I've been fortunate to have some good instruments of some vintage, and I have other Ibanez's that I love. And there's some of the production models on my own guitar that I go, "Ooh, that sounds and feels better." But I'm a very loyal person, and I tend to. I've been married now. How long, sweetie? You better get this right. You should never have to wait a minute, I don't know. 28 and a half years, that's right. And so, a quick plug, we do have merch here. So tonight we're going to play a bunch of my new record, Recovery. She's got the merch back at the table. I call her Carol Merrill. Only old people would know Carol Merrill. Who's Carol Merrill? Let's make a deal. The lovely Carol Merrill. What's behind door number 1, Monty Hall? Tell them what they've won. Well, they've won a lifetime supply of Rice-A-Roni. It's a San Francisco treat. Anyway, go see my lovely bride after. We're going to take a break and get the band up here in just a little bit. But if you'd like to get the new CD, awfully proud of it. There's some other cool stuff back there.
Also, Robert Hugh was kind enough to do 20 Sanctuary Red D&M drives as well. I think we've already sold a bunch of them. But yeah, they're floating around.
Oddly enough, I don't have one.
Do you not?
How much are they?
We'll, for you, my friend, we'll
Absolutely free for $4.99 shipping.
Everyone, this has been wild. Thank you all so much. It's been Alright, we're getting into the boys upstairs, so thank you. We'll hang around, so if we didn't get to a question, come and say hi. But yeah, thanks everyone.
Alright, well, give it up. Give it up for the one and only Daniel Steinhardt and the one and only Andy Timmons. Alright, this is your break time. Go to the potty, go see our friends at Zin Zan, order one of those hot melted chocolate chip cookies, get a fresh drink, and get ready to buckle in for a wonderful live performance. Give it one more time.